So today was a double feature, which means I'm going to attempt to do the impossible. 2 movie reviews in one video. Wish me luck. The first movie that I went to see today was the only movie I was originally planning to see. That was called The Devil Conspiracy? The Devil Conspiracy, yeah. I didn't know the first thing about this film until I just saw it on Cinemark's app, and I just did a little brief check to see kind of what it was about, and I saw that it was getting some decent reviews or ratings on IMDb, so I was interested. So got a ticket for it, headed out to see it, and then decided once I got to the theater that I was also going to watch Plane because of my schedule crunch over the next day or so. So yeah, I was at the theater all afternoon and into the evening. It's been a long day watching movies. I can't complain though. Okay, The Devil Conspiracy. This is apparently a Czech, US, I think, sort of joint movie making project. And the premise of the story is, okay, it's kind of, I kind of describe it as a mashup between, or I describe it as like a Christian horror thriller sort of thing. And I was reading a review of it on IGN, and they described it as, or they mentioned that, you know, this got a January release, not necessarily because it's a bad film, like a lot of films do get January releases because they're bad, but maybe more specifically because it's a niche film. And it was also described elsewhere as a mashup of The Da Vinci Code and Rosemary's Baby. That sounds about right, honestly. I guess I have to say, I kind of would give these guys an A for effort in trying to give us something thrilling and exciting. It's really hard to do religious movies right, because they often come across as hokey, over the top and ridiculous. And in some ways this movie was over the top and ridiculous, but there were things about it that I enjoyed. I liked the imagery of what was supposed to be hell. I liked the imagery of Michael the Archangel, and thought the premise was kind of cool. So basically, I never got around to the premise. This satanic cult wants to bring Satan back to life in the form of a baby. Like, let's say, you know, the Immaculate Conception of Jesus and all that. So they have this similar plan to impregnate these women, or to try to impregnate these women, so that they can give birth to this baby that will then be the physical embodiment of Lucifer, like Jesus was the physical embodiment of Christ. And, you know, so I felt that it was interesting. I also liked some of the action scenes in here. They take this girl, and then Michael the Archangel, I always want to say Archangel, but it's Archangel, I think, pretty sure. He inhabits the body of this priest, or yeah, I guess he's a priest. They got killed. And so he's trying to stop this plan and rescue the girl and all of this stuff. And this feels like a film that's very much targeted, obviously, for Christian audiences. And in a lot of ways, it does a better job at making it exciting and actiony and sort of maybe something that could potentially appeal to a wider audience than just Christians, as opposed to some other Christian-oriented movies that they just don't pack that punch that maybe they're trying to, or to maybe to a lot of people, they just come across as sort of lame and just doesn't, you know. And so this one, I feel like, had more of an appeal to me. But if I was going to try to categorize this as a Christian type of movie, religious type of movie, and compare it to others, I would have to say, of all the different ones I've seen, the best religious-themed movie or Christian-themed movie or spirituality-based movie is actually, to me, the movie Cyns, because while spirituality and belief and faith, that was sort of the fundamental message of the film, it was wrapped in this really interesting and compelling package. And this sort of is, in that it's got the horror element, in that you've got demons and people are getting killed and all this stuff, and you've got the thriller element, the supernatural type element. So that's why I feel like this could appeal to more people than just the fundamental Christian base. And having said that, I kind of think that the fundamental Christian base might be offended or might not really care too much for a movie like this, because it delves into those very heavily into those other sort of genres. There were also some things about it that I felt were kind of hokey. Like, there's this bad lady in here. It might show her in that chick right there. And I felt like she worked best when she just didn't talk. Because when she did say her lines, her right there, the girl on the left in the red, when she did say her lines, it just felt very over the top and cartoony. It just kind of took me out of the moment. So like I said, she was more effective when she just didn't speak. She just acted and did things. Like the opening scene with her, I thought was pretty well done. When this thing was being carried off and you saw the plan that was being set in motion. There were also some things that I felt were left unanswered. So the main girl, the blonde girl, with the girl with the shoulder length blonde hair, she gets taken. They never fully explain what it is about her that's so special. I guess she just happened to somehow be the right person. But at some point in the movie, she says something to the older lady. I think it was to the older lady. She says, "You don't know who I am," or "You have no idea who I am." And I thought that was supposed to go somewhere. I thought that was supposed to mean there was something more about this girl that we didn't know about and was going to be revealed, and it just went nowhere. These were just little things I noticed with regard to references to Rosemary's Baby, or like a mashup between the Da Vinci Code and Rosemary's Baby. I also thought of things like The Omen, except I feel like The Omen did a better job than this particular film did. And while I don't necessarily hate this movie outright, it's definitely no Moonfall. I haven't run into any Moonfalls this year. 2023 is looking pretty good. But I can't give this a super high. It was just, super high score. It was just, it was okay. It was just okay. Definitely ridiculous and crazy in parts, but there were other elements to it that I enjoyed. Like I said, some of the action scenes, some of the setting and the imagery of Michael when he was in his full archangel form. I thought he was pretty cool, but it's not necessarily anything that I would really return to. So yeah, those are my thoughts on The Devil Conspiracy. Now I'm going to move on to movie number 2. So the second movie I saw today on the big screen was Plane, starring Gerard Butler and Mike Colter. Now, when I first saw the trailer for this, I felt pretty meh about it, kind of like how I did with Megan. And I felt like, it's, exactly where it's going to go. And you do. It does pretty much go exactly where the trailer sort of leads you to think, because the trailer basically shows you the entire timeline of the movie, which I feel like was a mistake. I think that this trailer actually does not do the movie justice. And this film, surprisingly, meant to start the slideshow, surprisingly, is better than you might think. I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. It was a very simple plot, but it was executed very well. Just like how I said with Megan, you go in there and you know what you're going to get, but and it follows this sort of formula, but the way they followed the formula was solid and enjoyable. And I felt exactly the same about Plane. So the premise of the story is, if you haven't seen the trailer, this pilot, Gerard Butler, he has this very small group of travelers that he's flying from, I think, Singapore to, I can't remember, they were going to Tokyo, I think. And on board, it wasn't a full flight, so they were advised to go a certain altitude or a certain speed or whatever to try to not burn too much fuel. There was a storm that they had to try to fly through or over or something like that. And being brought on board the plane unexpectedly is this convict that's being extradited back to the US, I think, Mike Coulter. And the plane goes down in this area where it's like someplace in, I can't even remember where it ended up that they, someplace, in the Pacific, those Asian like area islands and everything. And it goes down there. This place is basically ruled by separatists, guerrillas, rebels, whatever. There's no law and order. It's ruled by this thug guy here and his little minions. And so not only do they have the scary flight and the crash landing, but then they have to deal with surviving in this place after that, and then also trying to escape. That's the basic premise. And you see in the trailer that the pilot and the convict guy, they kind of team up. They're going to work together. And so that's just basically what it was. There's not a crap ton of character development, but there's just enough of you getting to know the characters to feel like they've been pretty solidly established. They don't feel paper thin. They feel real. They feel genuine. You can identify with them. You can sympathize with them. You're pulling for them. And so it's really weird because there will be some movies that are basically a very similar sort of premise, but there's something about the way the characters are done that it falls flat. It just doesn't work. And I can't put my finger on why. Obviously it comes down to the writing, but I can't tell you what it was about the writing. You just can tell when it's better. It's so weird. Anyway, I was thinking to myself as I was watching this, especially in the beginning when the plane was going through some scary issues, I was thinking to myself, this is not the best thing for me to be watching before I'm getting ready to get on a plane in 2 days. And I already don't like flying. So some of those scenes were very tenseful for me. There were some things though that happened that made me wonder, I don't know exactly all the right protocols and rules and stuff that like captains are supposed to follow or whatever. But at some point after they've gone through this storm and he says he's going to go check on the passengers, he gets out and he goes walking along to check on the passengers because it roughed some of them up. Would a captain really go back and check on passengers like that? I don't know. Maybe that was just something they did for the story. Maybe it is something that a captain does. I've never seen a captain come back where everybody else is. But then I've never gone through that sort of flight before. Here's hoping I never do. There was also something else about this that I thought was handled pretty well. There was a fight scene that happens with Gerard's character and another character. And I felt like that fight scene was pretty realistic. It felt like you were watching a real fight. You know how a lot of times in fight scenes, you've got this choreography, it's choreographed and they got the punches thrown and they're jumping all over the place. And obviously this one was choreographed too, but it didn't feel like it was choreographed. It felt like there wasn't a lot of movement happening. It was just a lot of sort of holding someone and holding their face and trying to keep them away. And there wasn't, it almost reminded me of the jujitsu that Jeff did when we were in Vegas, and there just was not a lot of movement. It was mostly sort of grappling, holding on and trying to flip somebody up, whatever, that sort of thing. Not very actiony, but yet pretty suspenseful because these men were fighting to the death. And so that really stood out to me enough that I wrote fight scene realistic. I also wrote trailer doesn't do it justice. I've mentioned that already. There is at least one part in here that I felt was a skosh hokey, and it was a scene where Gerard Butler's daughter is leaving this video message for him, like when all this drama's happening and she knows the situation and she's all worried about her dad, obviously, and she leaves this video message for him. I felt like that could have just been cut out because a lot of times scenes like that, they just don't work. They just feel sort of cheesy and lame and hokey, and I feel like maybe if they'd just kind of shown her with a really worried look on her face, or maybe kind of talking to her, maybe kind of talking to herself like, oh, Dad, I hope you're okay. That sort of thing, as opposed to leaving a video message for him. I just want to say, I love you, Dad. That one didn't work. But for the most part, the rest of the movie was a lot of fun. And I'm happy I went to see it. I probably enjoyed it. No, not probably. I definitely enjoyed it more than The Devil Conspiracy. They're two completely different genres, but this one I felt like was just executed better, and I was definitely more engaged in what was going on. So yeah, that's my very quick recap / review of the 2 movies that I saw today, and I'm hoping to get this edited and up in time for tomorrow. And if you guys have seen any of these, I mean, they're just coming out. I mean, official release date is tomorrow. If you end up watching them, one or both of them, let me know what you think. And I think that's about all I have to say about it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I'm really curious to see how long this dual review video took. Probably longer than I was hoping, but maybe not. Okay, you guys. Bye.